Hello everybody, Prowl here, and today I want to show you the absolute best new tool for Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Most people don't know that Bedrock is capable of this sort of thing, so I'm really excited to show you what it is, give you a full walkthrough of how it works, and show you how to access it. Yes, I have done a video on this before, but this is going to be a much more full video as the tool is complete, and it is called Holoprint, and it's going to change your Minecraft lives. And after I put out a call several months back for someone to make something better than Structura being an extremely simple version of what I'm about to show you with no user controls or really any extra stuff to it, I went through a bunch of things that I wish Structura did, and a person by the name of Superllama secretly got to work and contacted me about Holoprint. After checking the initial version of Holoprint out and seeing how good it was, I went through several rounds of feedback with Superllama, just letting him know like additional controls and convenience features and things like that that I thought you guys as players or creators would want. And let me tell you, he executed all of them amazingly well. So everybody give Superllama a shout out in the comments section down below. He said he'll be checking out the comments to see if people had any questions or any sort of feedback. So definitely give the guy a shout. He's done an amazing job here. So now let's move on to actually showing you how to use Holoprint, and I'll explain how and why things work the way that they do and give you some tips that you're going to want to know when using it. So the first thing you might ask is, what exactly is Holoprint? Well, Holoprint is a way to take something that you design in a creative test world, something like this. It's a wool shop for my Bedrock Guide series. We built this here in creative mode. We created a structure block of it, and then we created this hologram of that structure that you see here. Now, this hologram will allow you to easily build this structure in your world. You can easily change the opacity of the blocks and go layer by layer to build this thing up in your survival world much quicker, easier, and faster. Now, the reason that you would want to use something like Holoprint is it's going to save yourself a ton of time in the design process and in the build process. Think of it this way. In real life, buildings, they aren't designed on site. You don't have a bunch of construction workers show up on site and then figure out together how to build what it is they're going to build. They already know how to do it. It's already been designed in a more quote unquote creative environment to make the process a lot quicker, a lot easier, to come up with a better quality product at the end and to reduce waste. Now, the same process is going to apply here in Minecraft. If you want to build things to as high of a standard and quality as you can in as short of a time as possible, doing something like this is the best way to do it, because you don't have to worry about gathering, crafting, and managing materials in survival mode, and then the restrictions of having to pillar up and down because you can't just free fly like you can in creative. You get to go through and design something in creative mode. You can even use really cool tools like I did with World Builder. I'll touch on that a tiny bit later on, to design something like this in about an hour. Whereas, at least for me, coming up with a full build like this would take me probably several days in survival mode to actually fully build it with all the changes and stuff I want to make. It just allows you to experiment and come up with an end product that you're extremely happy with. Now, to get these final really important questions out the way that I know a lot of you are asking, what systems does this work on? Well, it only works on PC and mobile, and it's actually going to be easier to use than Structura for mobile users, because Structura was a program you had to put on your PC to generate the files. Holoprint uses a website instead, so mobile users, you're going to have a lot easier time with this. Unfortunately, those who are on console are not going to be able to use this, at least not easily, without modifications to their console, which I know nothing about, nor will I condone. And you will never see something like this on the marketplace, as it does require you to use a structure block to create a .mc structure file and then upload that to a website that then creates the pack for you. And unfortunately, consoles lock that sort of thing down, so you're not going to be able to do it. Lastly, this is a resource pack only. It is not a add-on or a behavior pack, meaning that it will not disable achievements in your world. It can be used in realms, it can be used in servers, it can be used on your buddy's world that you play with. It can be used anywhere and everywhere. You're not restricted in any way, and again, it will not disable your achievements. I know this is very important to a lot of you guys, and it was important to myself and important to Superllama to make it this way for you guys too. So let's get into how to actually use and create your first Holoprint. So the first thing you need to do is actually create a structure file of the build that you want to do. So whenever you're in game or in world that you can't find a structure block through the creative inventory, you have to use a command to /give @self structure _ block, and that will give you a structure block. Now, the easiest way, to me anyways, to create a structure block is this. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and find a bottom corner of your build like this, place a structure block down just like that. Then you want to go to the opposite top corner and you're going to place a structure block up here. I will usually just go ahead and place a whole bunch of blocks to stack myself up. Get yourself just above the build like this. And then you'll want to, again, kind of tightly get yourself around the sides of the build. Looks like we line up there. Looks like we line up here to that stuff there. Get rid of these extra blocks, and then you're going to use the corner feature. I'm going to go to corner, and I'm going to name it BG Wool Shop because this is for my Bedrock Guide world. And then I'm going to come all the way over to the bottom one here. I'm going to click it. I'm also going to name it the same thing. It has to be the exact same thing, BG Wool Shop. I'm going to click detect, and as long as the names are the same, it will detect it. And now you can look at your build to see if you actually captured everything. It looks to me like I need to capture a little bit lower. So I'm going to go to the offset and set this to 0. And I think I actually have more. Let's set it to -1. And I believe -1 will capture everything. It is going to capture those grass blocks for me too. So you could decide to or not to capture those. It's up to you. And then I do need to now add some height to it because we moved the offset down. So I'm going to change this to, let's go to 14. And that gets me all the way up to the top. Actually gets me a little too high. We'll go to 13. And then now I can look and see that I'm capturing the whole build. I do think I'm missing something in the front. If you think you're missing something, you can always go out and it will show you an outline of everything. Looks like I'm not. I've captured this exactly. I've captured this exactly. And I'm just confirming that everything I want to be inside of this structure block is actually here. And I can see by looking, I am capturing everything that I want to, which means I'm going to come back to here and I'm going to export this structure file. I'm going to click export and I'm going to save this to wherever I want on my computer, or in your case, if you're on a mobile device, on your phone. Now, in my case here, I already have this saved as a structure, and I'm going to show you another feature this has in a little bit where I've actually saved a second structure because you can load multiple structures at a time, and I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to show you a use case of why you might want to do that. Now, Holoprint can be accessed through Superllama's GitHub. You see it in my web address bar here. I will put a link down in the description below. You can also Google search Holoprint Minecraft and the GitHub will show up right there as well. Once you load up the Holoprint site, this is what you're going to be met by, and this is where you're going to put your structure file. You're going to drag and drop it right here or click here and route to the file. In my case here, I'm going to drag and drop because I'm actually going to put 2 files in here because I want to show you how you can do multiple, and it's the same as if you do a single. So whether you're doing a single or multiple files, it's going to work exactly the same. But I'm going to go to my file folder here, and I'm going to drop in my Bedrock Guide Wool Shop and my Bedrock Guide Sheep Farm that are actually going to go together in my survival world that I'm working on. I'm just going to drag and drop them here. You're going to see that both files were loaded. Now I want to go over a few things here in your settings that you're going to want to pay attention to and know about. So first of all, ghost block scale. I suggest leaving this at 95, although if you want to tinker around with it, you're welcome to. But Structura and in previous versions of Holoprint had an issue with the ghost blocks flickering a lot. If you have it set for 95%, I know it doesn't flicker. You could probably set it lower and it might be fine. I don't know, but 95% works fine for me. So I'm going to leave it there. I would not increase it to 100% because that will most likely cause the flickering of your hologram blocks. You're going to default in the settings menu here. You do have 2 other menus you can go into. You can go to metadata, and metadata will allow you to name your pack. We'll do that here towards the end. Have a pack icon and change some other things as well. You can also load custom resource packs here. So if you use a resource pack to make your blocks look different. If you load it here, the hologram version of those blocks will look the same as your resource pack does, which will probably help you a lot with actually building the thing that you're building. There are settings here for an overlay tint. This is kind of up to you. I'm just going to leave it at the default because I don't really feel the need to change it myself. You also have in-game controls here. Now we'll go over the wiki here in a moment, but the in-game controls, these are all the defaults for those, and we're going to go over these controls in detail in game here in a moment. But I do want you to know that you can change these controls, and I'm actually going to recommend that you change some of these controls. And I've already sent feedback to Superllama on changing the default controls, and here's why. You use items in the game to remotely change things about how your holoprint appears. There's no other way to make it work with the resource pack. So it's a very cool, unique way to keep this as a resource pack. Now, that being said, that means you will have to have all of these items on you to control the hologram. The default items are all super easy items to get, but these default items are going to cause you some issues. Mainly, toggle rendering being stone. If you're building something that uses stone blocks, it's going to toggle the rendering every time you place a stone block. The same thing goes with change opacity as glass. The same thing goes with change layer for planks, and then change layer mode with wooden slabs. So what I'm going to recommend that you do, if you're building with any of these things, or just as a habit, I would change these to something that is not something that you're going to be building with, preferably some type of item. Now, there's a few ways you can go through and change this. Now, some of your default options that appear here, like when I have stone typed in, it's going to show everything that has the word stone in it. But if I erase the word stone, I get an option for any item in the game. So you're just going to want to go through, and you're going to want to find yourself any item that you want to work this particular option, something that you're not going to be building with. I'm not going to be building with apples. Apples are easy to get. I might change toggle rendering to apple. I might go to opacity and change this to glass bottles. So it's still glass. It still makes me think of opacity in some way, but I'm not building with bottles. Same thing with the planks, the logs, the wooden slabs. You could do this with anything that you want to, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm not going to change the default options on any of these. I want to use the default options so you guys can see how it works at default, but I 100% recommend that you change this away from blocks that you're going to build with. Otherwise, you're going to have a little bit of an inconvenience while building, as like options happen when you're placing blocks down. Next, there's a little tick box here for spawn animation. I love keeping that on. It's so cool to see the hologram build itself. It only shows that when you first place down or activate the armor stand, so you don't have to worry about it happening multiple times. There's advanced features here. I don't do anything with this at all. I just leave it as is. Again, once all of this is created and done, you can go to metadata. I can go ahead and name this pack whatever I want. I've already created and done the pack, so I probably won't download it. If you have a PNG, you want to make the icon, you could do that. It's not something that you have to do. You can just leave it default. You could put an author in here if you want to. You don't have to. And you can put a description in here as well. So if you're using a lot of these over time, you know which each one is outside of the pack name. Compression level, I wouldn't change that. I don't know what it does, and I haven't changed it. Once you're all done, click generate pack, and it will make the pack for you. And then you can click here to preview the pack before you download it to make sure that everything looks correct. You get this preview of any structures that you add. Here's a preview of the wolf farm. I can just take a quick 3D look at this to make sure everything looks right and is there. You can left click and spin your mouse to rotate. You can right click to move it around, and you can middle click to zoom in and out, although it is messing with the website too. But anyways, fully featured there. Same thing for your other structure. I have it down here as well. Basically, I just want to look at these to make sure everything looks good. And when it does, scroll back up and click download BG Wool Shop and Farm, or whatever you named yours. And once you've downloaded it, go ahead and double click it, and it will automatically open Minecraft if it's not open. And if Minecraft is open, it will install it to your Minecraft for you to use. So next thing you want to do is you want to load the resource pack. You can do this one of two ways. If it's a world that is saved on your device, on your phone or on your PC, you can just simply load it by clicking the edit button, going to resource packs, going to available, and then finding it in the available list. I actually already have it applied here. But what you would do is you'd go to available, you would click it, you would click activate, and that will activate it on only that world. Now, if you want it to appear on all worlds, or if you want it to appear on a realm or a server or a friend's world that you're playing on, which it will work on all of those, as long as the owner or the operator of that server, realm, whatever, has not required you to only use their resource packs. They can block you from using custom resource packs. So as long as they haven't blocked that option, you can go to settings, you can go to global resources, you can go to my packs, you can click the pack and hit activate, and it will activate it for you. Now, if you have any packs that do other things to armor stands, such as actions and stuff, you may either see the pack not work, or in the case of actions and stuff, I believe it will work as long as you put the wool shop above actions and stuff, and you put actions and stuff at the 64x mode, which makes it compatible with other packs. It should work then for actions and stuff. Again, for other packs, if you have something that changes armor stands or something, it's possible that the controls or other stuff might not work. So keep that in mind. Also, any other things that use controls, like if you have another add-on, I had one for like a replay type thing, that may also conflict. So if you try it out and you're having problems with control or with it showing up, it's because you have a conflict with another pack. Figure out what that pack is and move it down the list or remove it completely. Now, there is an option in here that I recommend be added because of some concerns that came from my stream chat when I was showing Holoprint off, and it was a great idea. So you're going to have a pack option now. Just ignore the fact that it says resolution. This is just how Minecraft's dumb UI works. Default means that when you're in a world and you place the armor stand down, that armor stand or any armor stands that you have in your world will automatically show the Holoprint. If you have a world where you don't have armor stands all over the place, you probably are just fine. Just leave it at default. If you have a world where you're using armor stands around for decoration or whatever, you might want to change it to punch to activate mode. This makes it so when you load into your world and armor stands that are already existing or armor stands that you place down, they will not show the Holoprint until you walk up to it and you give it a punch. This is really, really nice. I actually needed this for my Bedrock Guide world. So we're going to do punch to activate here really quick. I'm going to leave that option or have that option selected. At this point, we're good to go to load any world. And I'm actually going to load my Bedrock Guide world really quick here to show you a couple things. So you can see I am in punch to activate mode. I have armor stands over here for decoration. They are not showing the pack. But the armor stands I have over here for my pack, I can come over here and I can punch this guy. And as you can see, my resource stand will pop up here. Now I can also punch it to change the structure that is shown too. We'll go over that a little bit later as well, because there's another way you can change structure too. But that is how you activate the armor stand. And one super good idea that was recommended to me by one of my mods and admins, AgroSkate, yeah, Agro, I'm giving you a shout out, dude, is to make a bundle for all of your controls. So this is a perfect use for the bundle. You can add in everything that you use for controls into a bundle. And then as you're building, you could go through and pull out any individual part that you need for the bundle as you go through and do your building. Let's go over to a creative test world so I can easily show you all of the features and all of the controls. Oh, and I forgot one other thing. I'm going to show you this really quick, is the wiki. If I go to in-game controls here on the wiki, and I click on that, here is a good descriptive like visual layout in text and picture, or like text and like GIF form to show you all of the controls. I'm gonna go over all these right now anyways, but if you forget them, you can either reference my video or you can come through here and reference this as well. I do think what I'm going over with you is a little bit more updated than what's here, but this is also not a bad place to quickly check. Okay, and remember, I'm using all of the default blocks, but I'm going to go over what all of them are. So first of all, we're going to place our armor stand down, and that's going to generate our build. Now, we can turn this build on and off by punching with the stone block in our hand if we do or do not want to see it anymore. The opacity you can change with your glass. If you just punch, it changes the opacity in a increasing method, and then if you crouch and punch, it'll decrease. So you can set this to whatever it is that helps you with your building or the display of it the most. Usually I will have it at max opacity when I'm just trying to get the position of it right in terms of where I want it to be, and then when I'm building, I have it in one of the lower opacity modes. Next is the overlay tint. We talked about that option a little bit ago. The overlay tint will allow you to have this tint to your blocks. This can be useful while you're going through and placing blocks to even more easily distinguish blocks that have and have not been placed. Although I do find that the borders are good enough, so I would probably mostly use it with it off, but I don't know. I haven't used it a lot in game in actual build yet, so I may use it on or off. The options there for you either way. The iron ingot is the validation tool. I'm going to show you this a little bit more later, but basically what this does is it's a validation of the build to show you if the blocks have been placed properly or not. When you're further away, it will give you this like really tall bar that will help you see if a block is incorrect. This will be great for a full completed build. If you missed a block somewhere in the back, you could back up and you would only have one beam show up where that block in the back is missed. As you get closer, these will disappear so you can actually still see your build, and you will only have these exclamation marks that will show individual blocks that are incorrect. Then you would come around to that area of your build, find that exclamation mark of the incorrectly placed block, and you would be able to fix it. The block that you will probably have out with you all the time is the block that controls the layer, because as you're going through and building, you're going to want to probably do it one layer at a time. So while building, I would go through and I would place all of the blocks for layer number 1, and then I would switch to layer number 2, place all of those blocks down. Then I would switch to layer number 3, etc., working my way up the build. We're going to do an example of this here in just a little bit because I want to show you exactly how this process is going to work best for you when you're building. Next is the log, which is decrease layer. I don't know why this is in here and planks is to increase layer, because you could just simply crouch and decrease the layer too. So you probably don't really need to have the logs, but it's there if you want a separate control for it. Next is the oak slab, and the oak slab changes the layer mode. There's 2 different modes that you can run on. There is the layer by layer mode that only shows the layer that you're on, and then there's the all layers below mode. So if you want this, as you build, the below layers will still show, and it will just simply build up the layers as you go. I will probably build from bottom to top, meaning that all these blocks are going to be covered anyways, but maybe there's a situation, or maybe you have a personal preference where you don't want to build that way, and maybe you want to place all of a particular, I don't know, all of a block type down first, and you still want to see the layers below for whatever reason, right? There are situations where you may want it. I love that it's an option, but this will probably be my default option. Next is the positioning of your hologram. Let's go ahead and get it back here, because you may want to put this in a very specific spot. First of all, you may want to rotate it a certain direction because this isn't a direction you want. Rather than having to break and replace your armor stand and face a different direction to get its default direction facing properly, instead just take the copper ingot out, and then you can punch to rotate your build whichever direction that you want to rotate it. Next is the stick, and the stick will allow you to move the build 1 block at a time. So whether it's you want to move it up, you want to move it down, left, right, wherever you want to put it, the stick will help you move your build to get it in the exact position. And again, if it wasn't clear, the build moves the direction you're facing. So I face this way, it moves this way. If I face this direction, you can see it moves that way. Up and down work as well. Next is the ability to change the structure. So I can use the arrow here and change to a different structure. So this could be useful if A, you just want to load up a bunch of structures, and then you may build one here, and then you break that armor stand, and you come over here and you place another armor stand, and over here I want to build a different structure, and you just want to cycle between those structures, right? But here's where the beauty of this and the bone come into play. Let's say I want to build a wool shop that has a sheep farm below it, which is exactly what I want to do. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this guy right here, and I'm going to send it up a bunch of blocks. I don't know how many exactly yet. I'm just going to punch a bunch of times, and I'm going to raise that up a bunch of blocks. I'm going to place a second armor stand down, and then I want to change the structure of this armor stand and not change the structure of this armor stand. I'm going to give this armor stand a bone. That's going to disable it. this armor stand, which is tied to this guy up here, will now no longer be controlled, which means I can take my arrow and I can change the structure of this and not affect this. I can do any controls on this and not affect this. Now, I see a problem here. I have not raised my house up enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the bone to this guy, take the bone away from this guy. And if you want to keep track of these, you can like maybe name your armor stands or something. I don't know. There's a lot of things you could do. I'm gonna raise this up a little bit. I want to get it up above all my stuff. I think this is as high as I need to go. And then now I'm going to place the bone back into this, take the bone out of this one. And now I want to position this underneath where my house is going to go. And for me, I know that I'm going to have an entrance to come down to the farm, and I want it to come down to the farm storage. And I'm going to go down through this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I think, move my farm this way a few blocks. So that way, when I come down, I want to be more or less right in front of my storage area. I'm going to move it this way a few blocks as well. And now I'm pretty well lined up. So let's say this is now where I want the structure to go. Okay, I want this structure to be here. I want this structure to be here. And now I'm going to start doing all my building. Okay, well, I don't really need to see this right now. So I can disable it if I want to, or I can leave it enabled. That part's totally up to whatever I want to do. I'm going to disable it. I'm going to turn it off, and I'm only going to work on this one. So now I'm going to give my farm structure a bone. So now I won't affect any controls on it. And I'm going to take the bone away from this armor stand. And now I can control it independently, and I can come up here and start building the house. And then I can do it the other way around, or just get rid of this armor stand completely when I then want to move to the farm below it. Now, there is another control method too. At least I do think this still exists. I need to take myself out of creative mode because it is going to require us to punch the armor stands, I do believe. I'm going to give the armor stand that I want to control the item that I want to use to control it. So I know this right one is my farm down here. Let's say I give this one the plank. I'm going to give it to him. And now I can just punch this armor stand to control the layers of just this. And it's only going to control the armor stand that has the block, because that armor stand has the block and you're controlling it directly from the armor stand. Versus if I were to click on it and then I use this right now, you see it controls the layers of both. So you can use the bone to disable, or you can give the armor stand the particular control you want to use and punch it to use the control. You have two options, but I love the bone option. The bone option is by far my favorite. And now I want to show you a couple things, but there is one final thing, and that is the piece of paper. I don't think it's really needed now, but there maybe is instances where you might want to use it. It is to save the state of your hologram. During early development, there was an issue of any time you got too far away from the armor stands and you got out of render distance of them, anything that you had changed on where the armor stand was, it all went back to default and it appeared right back where the armor stand was first placed. So Superllama added a feature based on my feedback that does two things. If you get far enough away from the armor stand, it will automatically save its state. So then if you get out of render distance and then go back in, it remembers its state. Now, you may have instances where you want to manually save, because I think there's probably some ways in which you can force this thing to not save. Maybe if you fly away way too far with your Elytra, and maybe if your game is lagging, or maybe if you have a nether portal close by and you go inside of that nether portal, or maybe if you die while building and then you appear at a bed that's far away. Those things can make the state not save. So there may be instances where you want to take the paper and just, once you get everything set where it is, just give a little punch and it'll save it. And then know that from there, anytime you move away and come back, it will automatically save for you. But if you're building up your build layer by layer, and then when you're on this layer right here, you die and you spawn somewhere far away, this armor stand's probably not going to have the ability to save where you were. So when you come back, you might just find that you're back at whatever the previous save state was, whatever that may have been. Now, one other feature I want to show you before I show you a building example is a feature that is not mentioned anywhere, but is the coolest feature that I've seen. And it is the ability to, on PC, hold down the tab button and you get a full material list of every material required for both of the builds, for any build you have loaded. This includes all structures that are loaded as part of the pack. So even though I have this bottom structure turned off, this bottom structure is still part of my block list, but you get this block list for every single block that's part of the resource pack. Super cool, amazing for getting everything together for a build. I love it. You can also access this on touch. If you go to the wiki, you'll see an example of it, but on touch, there's a little book icon that appears on the left-hand side. If you tap that, your material list on any touch device will show up as well. Okay, so we're gonna get to building. And gosh, I love that you get this little tiny hologram of the full build right here. If you need to look for reference for any reason, that is so cool. But we're gonna go ahead and build a layer here. All right, I got my first block placed down. And again, when you're going through and building this, you would probably be on the ground level, so it would be a little bit safer than what I'm doing here. But you would go through and you would place your blocks down. And as you see, the block just simply covers the entire hologram piece. And you're gonna go through and you're gonna place your blocks and build one layer at a time. Now, by default, if I place an incorrect block down like this, you can see it covers it up, and I don't really have any way of knowing that I've placed an incorrect block. That's where validation mode comes in handy. So if I build while I have validation mode on, and you may or may not want to build with it on, that part's up to you. You may want to do a layer at a time and then turn it on. But if you build with validation mode on, any block that is yet to be placed or any block that is placed incorrectly will have this exclamation point above it. So if I'm going through and building and placing down the correct blocks, those little exclamation points disappear. And then if I place down an incorrect block, the exclamation point does not. So I know at this point that even though there's a solid block here, I have not placed down the correct block. I can go through, knock it out, place the correct block down, and now I'm good. Okay, so for the most part, I've built most of this, although I did not place down my pale oak planks because I'm running the default controls and it's set for planks. So when I place this, it changes my layer. And when I break it, it changes my layer too. So yeah, that is a little bit of a problem. That is a little bit of a problem. And that's why I'm telling you to not use materials you build with as the controls, and why I'm going to send that feedback to Superllama to take planks out. But outside of those, I've placed everything down. So now I might go through and do validation mode. And you're going to see blocks that I'm missing have it. I haven't placed those blocks yet. And then incorrect blocks have it as well. You can see right here, look, we have an incorrect block here. I have andesite down instead of tough. So I can break that, place the tough block down. Oh, here's another one I missed. It's actually highlighted in red, which is interesting. I didn't know it did that. But I placed a regular azalea leaf rather than a flowering azalea leaf. So now I've gone through and I've figured out that those were my problems, and that's fixed it. Also, the validation showing for the build below, even though it's turned off. I'll check with Superllama on that and see if we can have it so if the structure is turned off, like disabled so you can't see it, that the validation doesn't show too, because that's a little annoying. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but I would definitely not want that there. But there you go. That's a great use case of the validation. And again, I would go through, I would build this thing up, and then once I'm done with this layer, I would go ahead, probably turn validation off at this point, and then go to my next layer and then build this up. So one final thing that I want to bring up is a mega build. I got asked in my chat, well, Prowl, what if I'm building something so big that I can't fit it in one structure block? Because a structure block does have a maximum size. It's 64 blocks in each direction. So if you're doing a big build that is larger than 64 blocks long, your structure block's not going to be able to capture it all, which means you're not going to be able to fit it all in one armor stand. So what do? Well, like I did over here, where I had one build above the other, do the same thing here, but do it side by side. So if this house went way down here and I needed to capture the stuff down here, but my structure block isn't big enough. Well, that's fine. I'm going to use a second structure block to capture the second part of the build. I'm going to do all the same stuff, size it appropriately, capture the whole build. And then, just like I did over here, I'm going to place down the armor stand for this build right here, right? And that's going to show me my hologram for this. And then I'm going to place down another armor stand over here. And then I'm going to use all my same controls with the bone and the changing the structure and everything. And I'm going to have the second part of my structure over here. And I'm just going to piece them together. So that way I can build it just with two armor stands beside each other rather than everything fitting into one armor stand. And one last thing, an issue that you may find that you have, I had this issue when I was building this in my Bedrock Guide world with Structura, is when you place your armor stand down, it's possible that you get far enough away on a bigger build from your armor stand to where your hologram doesn't show anymore. So you may have to do some creative things to make it so that doesn't happen. Maybe you place down a second armor stand on the other corner of your build or something. Or maybe you even do something like center the armor stand inside of the build. That way it's easily loaded no matter how big your build is, anywhere you are inside of that build. There's a few things you can do to get around that problem if you ever run into it. Finally, there is one great tool I highly recommend you use with Holoprint, and that is World Builder. This is a add-on created by Orville, and it is in the marketplace. You do have to pay for it. I use World Builder to design all of my farms and to design all of my builds. It's great for making the build process of creating your build in creative mode extremely fast. And when you combine that with using Holoprint, you're going to find that you're saving yourself a ton of time, giving you more time to build more amazing things. And really at this point, this gives Bedrock content creators almost everything they need to keep up with Java content creators, because Java has had these tools to help them speed up their builds for a long time. It's how they get so much done so quickly. Now we have World Builder to replace World Edit, and we have Holoprint to replace Lightmatica. The only thing we're missing is Replay Mod, which I'm going to do a video about that soon, because Replay Mod is likely coming to Bedrock Edition in the future. I'm going to go over with you exactly what they should do and how they should do it, and some indications we have that it's coming in a future video, so keep a lookout for that. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. I want to give my last thanks to Superllama for making an amazing tool and letting me work with him to come up with some of these cool control and feature ideas and bring this to you guys. Superllama, great job. Thank you so much for your hard work. It was a pleasure working with you. Holoprint, at this point, is feature complete. But if you have any ideas or comments about Holoprint, leave it down in the comment section below. And there may be some other cool stuff coming with it in the distant future. When that happens, and if that happens, I will let you know about it. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed this, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more great videos. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I'm moving the build.